All right, boom, here we go. This is a test. This is going to hopefully help me determine if this is something I can do and make happen with a vision that's only been about just a little bit. So, what I'm trying to accomplish here is I want to create a journal of sorts. So, for a while, Katie and I have talked about um, doing a different journal style of doing a podcast for our family. Didn't really get off the ground. I didn't really have the motivation to do it. And then a while ago, I kind of thought, I've been thinking about um, how much I love my family and how little I know about them now. I really rely heavily on my memories as a kid with them to create the relationships that we have as adults. And I don't want to say that I'm sick of it, but I do really want to. I have a really big desire to like know who they are now rather than like what they were as a kid. And we've all changed. I mean, there's things that get said when we get together as family that I'm like, I am not that person anymore. Um, and I hope that by doing this, um, I can eliminate that with our family and create more closeness. So the idea is to, with this Casper Chronicles podcast, is as the host myself. Again, I'm like interviewing myself today, but I want to create a podcast where I interview the people in my family, especially the kids, to talk about obviously our past, because a lot of it is endearing, fun. The stories are told over and over, and I never get sick of them. And I want those to be captured for our kids in the future. And then also, like I mentioned, getting to know better their present situation, themselves, their wives, their husbands, their kids better, and what's going on for them so that maybe I can be there for them more. And maybe the family, if they listen, can be there for them more too. So this is going to be kind of a weird back and forth. I'm going to interview myself today as the test. So my name is Laws Wade, and I'm the oldest of 7 kids. It's a blended family. I'm sure as we get into all of this, we'll talk more about it. It's kind of hopefully my idea when talking to the parents is going to dive into how our family came to be. But I'm the oldest of 7. I'm 31 years old, born in 1992. I'm married to Katie Lynn, and we have 4 kids. There's Ruck in the background. If you're watching the video, you can see him. Um, but I am a stay-at-home dad right now. I have been doing that for about just over a year. So I hope to kind of relay in this a little bit how the layout of each podcast will go. So we're going to dive into a random question. And the first thing I did is I went on to Google and typed in great questions to ask family members. And the one that stuck out to me the most right off the bat was, if we all lived in a zoo, what animals would we be? So I'm going to stick to mom and dad and the 7 kids. Maybe if I had somebody here, we'd elaborate more on everyone, and I think that would be funny. But so we're going to start with dad. And let's get cheesy here, and let's say dad is the lion. And when the reason this popped out to me, because that's what came to my head immediately, was dad is the lion, mom's the lioness. And the only reason that came to me is I get on Instagram, Nature's Metal. I always say mental, but it's metal. Nature's Metal. And I've learned over the years that like the male lion is the leader of the pride, but is a laid back, is basically comes out and does what he needs to when the time is right. Otherwise, the lioness does all the other stuff. And that just reminds me of dad working when we were young. Obviously, just having a daily job, and mom being the stay-at-home mom, obviously. But the biggest thing is that so the lioness keeps all the cubs in line, but when they're in trouble or um, in any situation, whether they're getting in trouble or the lion, the cubs are in trouble from or in distress, the male lion will come to the aid, and that's just how I think of dad and mom. Dad has can have a big old roar when he needs to, but mostly just lets mom do her thing, and I think create a great couple together. Myself, I would love to say that I'm a gorilla. That's my favorite animal. But if I didn't give obvious favoritism to what I want to be, um, I would I would probably say like a I don't know. I'm trying to like it's hard not to say what I would want, right? Like a lizard or a gecko or something like that. But I would probably like be one of the um I want to say like a monkey, or I'm just thinking of the animals that when you go up to their cage in the zoo and you're like, where are they? Like, and they're just doing their own thing. And that's kind of what I mean, any animal that you can think of, maybe those random, like weird cat style or weird, like random animals that you're just like, what the heck? Where did this come from? That's kind of animal I'd be, but would love to say I'm a gorilla. Um, Kai, Kai's a freaking rhino. Um, I just take that for what you want it to be, Kai. You're a rhino, dude. Um, I think Trey would be like, yeah, that one's hard. I would say that Trey has got to be like a bird. I want to say a bird. And the only reason I say that is I feel like birds are clever. They go where they want to go, and uh, I mean, obviously, like in the zoo, they're like generally pretty bright colored. And I just feel like that Trey kind of has that, gives off that energy, is just kind of like his own thing, special thing. And then there's Kylie. oh, right now my urge is to be like Kylie's an orangutan, but I'm just kidding. Um, I would say that, um, yeah. Oh, what is Kylie? That is funny. Um, Man, it's been so long since I've been to the zoo. I feel like uh, maybe I could see her as a giraffe. I don't have a good reason, to be honest. I'd like to tease her and say like the orangutan because that would just be funny, but um, yeah, I don't have a good reason. But giraffe is in my head. Ride. Oh man, what's ride is gonna be like he's like one of the lizards, just zipping around from thing to thing, but also can be super chill when he needs to be. Um, yeah, maybe a lizard. No, that doesn't feel right. Maybe like an otter or something. Maybe more like an otter. But um, Carter, this is maybe Carter's gonna hate this, but he's a like a freaking exotic bug. Like I think like a stick bug or like a rhino beetle, or that you do not go to the zoo to like see the bugs, but then you're just like completely fascinated by them when you get there, or at least I am. So to me, Carter's that. Like, um, he was once upon a time the youngest kid, so like you're not really looked at, or like I don't know. Like, I don't think a lot of limelight was put on Carter when we were younger, but dude is interesting and has so much to offer, and can keep you captive in basically any conversation. That he has a wealth of knowledge, and I just feel like, yeah, one of the insects. So like rhino bug, stick bug, like just those crazy ones that you just are like, how is that even an actual thing? Um, Man, and then Sophia would be like, Sophia would be like a freaking. I feel like the exotic thing. Like, I'm thinking like tiger, and mostly because like I'm thinking the old zoo, and I don't know if they still have it, but like the train that goes around to take you to see the animals. I always felt like they put the tiger or the wolves or whatever like off into the cages, so far away. Like it was the only way that you could see them was through the train or something. At least that's how I feel. And that's kind of Sophia just being so far from the other animals. So the other kids, obviously, with being the super caboose of the family, but being like her own person. She had no influence of like the parents, mom and dad were when we were kids. She had no influence from siblings, basically. She has been on her own, doing her own thing. So she's the exotic animal. Um, so yeah. And then each week I want to dive into a would you rather. Our family does this so much. I think it'd be funny to kind of get a quick like snippet of would you rather. So this week's would you rather is: would you rather wake up in a forest 5 miles away from your home naked, or at your work in your underwear? And we're going to just take into the fact that let's just pretend I work at some random business, rather than obviously stay at home dad. But uh, when I saw this one, I was like, immediately, I was like, wake up naked. And generally when I do the would you rathers, that's kind of how my brain works, is like I have a snap decision. Um, and here's why. And this is always the funnest part of the game. And I hope that in the coming weeks with the family members that I can dive into the why rather than just the answer to the question. Is I'm pretty fast. I know for a fact that I can run 4.5 miles easily in 45 minutes. Now, naked with no shoes and everything on, I get that it would take me longer. But in a forest 5 miles away, if that forest led right up to my house, or even within a block or two, maybe even within a mile, I just walk through the forest like butt naked, because who cares? I'm in a forest. And then that last mile, dipping and dodging and weaving and, you know, letting the twig and berries fly, or maybe not fly, but, you know, I don't think it would be a problem. I don't think it would be as embarrassing. In my head, it's more like, who the heck knows who you are? So, like, I don't even know my neighbors. So it's like, even if they saw me naked, they'd be like, who's this random guy? Where if you're in your underwear at work and everybody there knows who you are, even if they don't, they'll be able to say, you guys see that guy in his underwear? And I feel like that'd be pretty embarrassing. And then but then like you're getting super embarrassing just at work and then just driving home, and that's no big deal. But that's a much longer term effect. So I'm going to go with a naked 5 miles from home in a forest. Naked, wake up naked in a forest 5 miles from home. A big part of what we do in the Casper family, and I think this is something that has been passed on, especially from mom, is storytelling, or at least the ability to relay funny and interesting things that have happened in our life. So just kind of dive into a past connection. So with interviewing others, the hope is that we connect on a memory that we both were a part of. Um, So I'm going to just share maybe a little bit of a memory where most people are involved. And then the other thing I'll want to do is actually hear a memory or try to create a memory, not create a memory, but create an environment that a memory can be shared that um, I was not a part of. So that, like, as a kid, I would have never known about. And as an adult, obviously not knowing about. So hopefully in the future, we can have those two past connections. One's together and then one where I wouldn't have been a part of it. Maybe I knew about it one time, but I completely forgot it because it wasn't a large part of my life. So my earliest real memory with many of us in the family is going to be the times driving, or regular times, I should say, driving to pick up Kylie. Now, those times sucked. I don't get it much now, but when I was a kid, I got car sick. And traffic as a kid, I feel like it sucks as an adult because you're just like, oh, if everyone just drove better. But like as a kid, we all know that a minute as a kid seems like an hour, right? And so now driving to Salt Lake from Spanish Fork, where I live now, and it's 55 minutes, is not that big of a deal. I do it a couple times a month to do things for training or whatever. But as a kid, I remember that was the worst thing to hear from mom going to school. Hey kids, remember that after school we're going to pick up Kylie for like the weekend or whatever. And I dreaded it all through school. Like people like, oh, what are you doing this weekend? Hey, Caleb or I don't know, probably not Caleb. I was probably old enough to stay home at that point. But seriously, like friends would just be like, hey, what are you doing today? Like, do you want to play? And whatever. And I'd be like, no, I gotta go pick up my sister. And then the conversation that comes from that, they're like, your sister, where's your sister at? And you're like, oh, she lives up. Oh, I didn't know. And you're like, yeah, I'm adopted. And I just was like never something that I liked to share. I got to the point that even as a young kid, I'd be like, I'm going to be gone. And then coming home and mom being like, everybody get in the car. Let's go. We're going. We got to pick up Kylie. We're already late or, whatever. So it's like, rolling your eyes. You just hated it. There was never, and then I felt like it was either too hot. So if it was like summerish time, that mom never turned on the air conditioning, it felt like that. And so I was just freaking hot. Or when it was winter, I felt like I had to wear my snowsuit in the car because it was crazy cold. And, that's just how my memory goes. And I'm sure moms would be like rolling her eyes listening to this. But seriously, that's just how I felt. And you're sitting there and I would try to like close my eyes or whatever. I would get crazy car sick. And I even remember we had to keep a bowl. I think it was for Ride because he just like barfed all the time. Like I feel like all of us at some point or another as kids would get car sick taking that drive. And then it was the part that was the worst was the fact that like we drove up there and then immediately turned around to come back home. I hated that. It would, and most of the time we didn't even get out of the car. We would get to Kylie's, felt like mom would just like, burr, burr, and then like Kylie would come running out. And I don't even remember like seeing Tammy or Blaine or anyone like that. Really, it was just like get in the car. She's ready to go most of the times or whatever. Jump in the car, and then we'd immediately turn around to go back home. And that's kind of like my biggest like recurring memory of everybody. And then dad comes home and we're probably all like making mom upset because we've been stuck in a car, and we'd get home probably right around dinner time. So mom's immediately going into cooking a meal and we're just like, oh, that sucked. This is the worst. And, I haven't had my daily teasing. So I probably immediately get my full day's worth of teasings into everybody. Now Kylie's there. So that's an even bigger amount of it just like, it piled everything on, is how I felt. And I hated it. That was probably like one of the things I did not like growing up, was going to pick up Kylie. And it wasn't anything with Kylie, nothing to do with specifically like any person. Just that experience was never fun. I'm sure with like 5 kids, my mom did not like that either. I can barely take our 4 kids going to like Kai's house or something. So there it is. Some of my earliest memories of most people, most of us together. Now, diving into a segment of what we're famous for, I hope to take time to really dive into the dumbest things that we have in our family of like, he's constantly brought up. It's what we're famous for in the family. And my biggest one is we have these sayings for a couple of us. I think as it's gone on, I think it's like we've held on to it a little too much. I think some of the younger kids' sayings are dumb. I think maybe it's just rides. I think we're trying too hard with Sophia, but so mine is service. What is it good for? I literally have no idea when, where, or why I said that. None. I know the feeling I had as a kid. Again, not that specific time. I literally have no idea. I think dad was the one that was there. And I was just like, I'm sure it had something to do with young men's doing some sort of service project. Those have always sucked. And yeah, it's funny. So this is diving into it. I know I felt that as a kid. I hated service. I literally did not understand the point. There was literally no point to me in serving people. There was no outcome that was good for you. There was no outcome in my brain that was good for them. They got something for free, and that was like cool, but why couldn't they just do it? Now, I'm simplifying that a lot. I'm sure there was like a lot of products we did for like old people that can do their yard work. I don't know. But all I'm saying is as a kid, I truly remember having feelings constantly of like, why do we need to serve people? There is no point. That's really how I thought as a kid. And I think, and I don't mean to say this negatively, mom and dad constantly told me how selfish I was. And that's pretty evident, I think. And I always was like, no, I'm not. And, I'm forced to share my things with my younger siblings. Again, my young brain didn't comprehend what I was saying or how I was doing it. I think for most of us, for those of us that have gotten to take a chance to serve a mission, we recognize the point, right? And I truly did. And it still took me some time on my mission to have my eyes opened in understanding the purpose and what is it good for. And specifically was like literally aha moment for me was on my mission. I had this, I'm doing it. If you're watching the video, I'm about to describe this. There was an elder, a zone leader. I was still getting trained, I believe. And my trainer was the district leader. So he went on exchanges with the other zone leader. And then the zone leader came into our area. So I was like basically in charge of our area at maybe 4 or 5 weeks into the field. And a lot of the day was just a learning experience. A lot of it was taking a lot of constructive criticism. I feel like that's something I'm pretty good at taking. I actually really love when people give me constructive criticism. I think it's very easy to excel when you just like listen to those things from people. Now, this elder was doing a really, really good job of it. His name was Elder Hire. And if you're watching the video, the reason I'm doing this with my nose is he had a tick and he would do like a bunny rabbit nose. So like his like nose would go down. It's not flaring it, which I'm kind of doing, but he would like pull his nose down and it would, anyway, like a bunny rabbit does. He wouldn't do it quickly like they do, but it was like the weirdest thing. And we're out. And I just remember that. I learned how to do it, and yeah, there we go. Kind of like pulls your lips down too. Anyway, it's the end of the day. We're about to go home. We're going to go to sleep, and then next morning, meet back up with our companions. And he was like, Elder, you don't seem to have the quality of charity. I was like, okay. Like he was pretty blunt. Um, I was a little hurt, but I was like, that makes sense. I think I was growing up a little bit, obviously in such a short time, not a ton, but I was learning that I had some attributes that I needed to change to be better in my life in general. And he goes, I don't think you have a lot of charity. And I was like, okay. And he was like, do you love me? And I was like, dude, where's this going? Whoa, whoa, whoa. I honestly freaked out a little bit. I was like, what the freak? I got a little bit weirded out. I'd never heard that term. In how I felt growing up, is the only people you said I love you to was to your family. And I didn't say it even that much. And I was like, no, dude, I don't freaking love you, Elder. And he was like, why not? I was like, I barely know you. This is my first day ever meeting you. Like I was like, I've heard you on phone calls, but that's about it. And he was like, okay, I understand that. What about that person? And there was like a person like 100 yards away, just walking in a parking lot. And he goes, do you love them? I was like, no, of course not. And he was like, that's the point I'm trying to make. He's like, you need to love them. I was like, how the heck would I love that person if I haven't met them, got to know them, and created experiences with them? And he's like, it doesn't matter that you as a person haven't done that. Jesus Christ has. And that hit me hard. Like it opened my eyes. I am still not the greatest at it. In fact, I'm still probably like a level 1 out of a million at loving everyone. But that's where I learned what service was good for, is to show the love of Jesus Christ. And it was actually the one way I knew that I could do to show love to people. I know I can work hard. We were brought up that way. And so as a kid, I learned those attributes from my parents, of how to work hard. And so I knew that on my mission, the best way I could show people love, and this was to my companions, to the ward members that helped us, to the random people that I met, was to do service for them. Coming home, I'm not going to say I'm still great at that. In fact, I probably still am like a bah humbug to a lot of people. But I have learned the saying that I'm famous for. I've learned what it's good for. Service, what is it good for? It's good to show your love to everyone. So, yeah. So I guess we need to clarify from dad or mom where that story for sure came from. I don't know the scenario. I don't know the exact reason that it was said, but I know that it's said because we constantly say it. And then the biggest point of all of this podcast, is to share and get to know my siblings better, and in their present situation. Like I said, I feel like I really, as much as I may have been a punk as an older brother and all those things as kids, I really felt a connection to my siblings growing up. I felt like we were there for each other, or that we would be there for each other. We were ride or dies kind of thing. But now I feel like our relationships ride on that a little bit too much. And that's not a bad thing. I think our family's closer than 99% of families out there. And I'm very grateful for that. But I personally want to know my family better in what they're going through now. So, my present situation is I'm a stay-at-home dad. Not willingly. I don't know. I think I remember like texting people in the family or in our family group chat, but the lead up to this is that we lived in Cedar City, graduated from SUU, got a job at a school called Heritage, and I was a high school teacher at a treatment center for PE and health. The job was fine. I liked it. The kids, I like the kids a lot, actually. And that opened my eyes to a lot of better understanding of mental illness and how to be aware, help with that. But that's kind of where I'm going with this is, but then I got an offer to do something that I absolutely love, and that's to run a gym, to be in a gym every day, all day. And it was for a company called RX Fit. They had 7 gyms at the time, and I was going to be the gym, I guess the head coach. I was going to be, in charge of programming, to developing the coaches, to improving the quality of the gym, both in physical appearance and in demeanor and the feel, things like that. That was my job. Did that for a while. And then, literally out of nowhere, um, the owner of RX Fit called me in and let me go. I had literally no uh, indication that that was going to happen. And I can say that was probably one of the hardest things that's ever happened to me. Was working my butt off. I was improving things. I was, in what I felt in my eyes, being successful. And I just got fired out of nowhere. And it was crazy to me. Katie and I came to the conclusion that because the only way that they were able to hire me is that they had to guarantee me a salary. I wasn't going to just take hourly wage like most gym coaches do. And we came to the assumption that he just couldn't afford me anymore, which is okay, but still hurts a lot, to be honest. That was like my dream job, other than owning my own gym. And the best part of that story is that Katie had started a job as a part-time person, but then got offered full-time like 2 weeks before. And we had moved into Cindy and Howard, my in-laws' house. We were blessed and ended up in a good situation. But that's how I became stay-at-home dad. Katie got a full-time job, worked her butt off, and is killing it. I honestly cannot believe. I can't say I can't believe. I am so proud of how good and how well Katie has done in the workforce. It's incredible. In 100%, in all honesty, I believe that she's more successful than I could be inside a workforce, honestly. And so for this, I think that was around August of 2022, I think. So I became a stay-at-home dad, and it kind of wasn't real for a little bit because we were living with the Loomises. Cindy did a lot of helping, and the kids rather be around grandma anyway, so it wasn't that bad. And I don't even want to say like being a stay-at-home parent is bad, but then we moved here in May and been a stay-at-home dad. Was that through the summer and now into school year and stuff. Um, I love it. I think I've got the easy end of it. Just got Ruck. That's it, at home every day. And only the kids, after school for 2 hours. It's not bad at all. Ruck's played in the background. Um, anyway, so I've been doing that, and I'm gonna share that I struggle with it mentally. I'm a kind of person that has to be doing something. I've gotten lucky in the last few months to be hired as a contracted employee for some other CrossFit events. So things to take my mind off it. But I struggle being a stay-at-home parent because I don't feel useful. And I can now empathize with Katie and how she felt through the years as I worked away from home a little bit more. I still don't want to admit fully like how I'm feeling or what I'm doing or what's going on in my head. I don't know how to articulate what I am feeling, but it's definitely a more negative mindset than I've had in a long time, and trying to work through that. And um, um, that was Ruck playing in the background, but I considering therapy. It's not that I don't want to go, or I think I'm above that or anything like that. I don't really want to take the time, and that's just how my brain works. And that's just kind of how I'm feeling. No sympathy needed. I appreciate more so the hard work a lot of moms put in to stay at home. So just know that. Some things about us, like I had mentioned, Katie is working full time. She works at a place called Squire. She's an HR generalist for Squire, which is an accounting firm. She's done an incredible job to improve herself and her abilities within that space. And just with the current situation is not actively, but is open to new opportunities to continue to further it. And it was really cool to be able to see her engage with one of the guys that Uncle Ryan brought to our NNIC meeting, to kind of be her own person and in charge of what's going on for her life. So that was really cool. And then we got Bear, just turned 9, is getting way too big for me to like handle. One of the funniest things that's happened recently is that I laughed my head off at him and he felt so embarrassed. And I still feel bad that I did laugh at him, but I couldn't stop because it was a moment in which my classic, and this may be a famous, what I'm famous for in the future too, but I pinched with my teeth, just trying to get around the truth while telling the truth. Bear did that relatively recently, and we're about the same age. And so it just killed me. Katie had to take care of the situation because I could not handle how funny it was to me that those kind of things can like pass on. Other than that, he is incredibly smart. The kid just knows everything, I feel like, or at least gives off that energy. Then we have Phoenix. He's turning 8 in March, so he's 7. He's just about to dive into his competitive gymnastics season. Thank you to everyone that donated for his cookie dough thing. That is a huge help. It's crazy. We all are starting to experience it, but how expensive kids' sports can be. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for allowing us to do that as we grew up. But he is very ready. If you ask him to, it's the funniest thing. Ask him to demonstrate his routines with his fingers. It is so funny. He'll do it. And I don't know if it's like his coach is showing him, but he will use his fingers to demonstrate his routines and how they move around the bar. Sutton just started kindergarten this year. She is becoming more and more independent. She is becoming more and more of like, I remember the few instances of Kylie when we were younger, trying to be our mom. Sutton is right at that age that she thinks she is. She's bossy pants. I love it. It cracks me up. She is, in my opinion, I'm going to separate those comments so I don't get in trouble for this. She is a replica of Katie, and it's not because of the whole bossy pants thing. The way I see her face, her eyes, when Katie does her hair certain ways that looks just like her, it cracks me up and I love it. And I cannot wait for the days when those two are butting heads because they are identical. It's probably the same way me and Bear are going to be. But then we got Ruck. If you're on the video, you can see him in the background. Can you say hi? He's waving. He's staying at home with me. Dude is got the biggest calves. I guess maybe Makar is challenging him for that, but he's doing gymnastics, takes naps still every day. Right, Ruck? Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at right now. To leave off today, I'm going to just kind of share, and this is kind of my final thought, and this will be a different thought for each podcast and interview, is going to be something to kind of let the person that we're interviewing or that I'm interviewing, to end the podcast, trail us out. Today's going to be a question, and that question is, when do you feel the most like yourself? 100%, and this includes to any of you in the family, and I say this even to people that I get to know, that without a doubt, if you want to know exactly who I am, it's with my family in Blanding at the cabin. That is my 100% safe zone. Everything I feel, I can feel relaxed. I honestly feel so stress free. I may get stressed while there for different random things, but there for moments I feel like I'm able to parent well. I feel like I'm able to be a great brother, son, father, husband, all these things. And I absolutely love it there. So if you actually want to know who I am, I feel the most like myself in Blanding when we go to the cabin. And that's why I will go there for the rest of my life. Even if the family stops going to the cabin, we'll figure a way. I love you all. Thanks for your time today. Number 1, Casper Chronicle.